Hi, Girl Skulls. Welcome back to the Carla and Crappy show. I stumbled over my words there because I'm suffering from Christmas week. Christmas week, you guys know what Christmas week is. Work is kind of sporadic. There is excessive food and drink
Yes.
everywhere.
Everywhere. Yes.
And you know, we can also, there's excessive college football everywhere too, which is sort of why we're here. Hi, Carla.
Hey, how are you?
doing I'm doing good. I still have to work this week, and you know that's kind of a drag, but we're still managing to get all the Christmas like activities in that we can. You don't have to work this week. You're coasting.
I'm coasting now. I had to go in
Okay.
for a little bit this morning,
Okay.
but not for very long. It was just a quick check-in because we didn't get a project finished.
Mhm.
But yeah, now I'm coasting, and my brother-in-law's already here for the holidays. This is my first Tennessee Christmas, so I'm excited about this.
Nice.
Never been in Nashville for Christmas, so this is fun.
Okay.
Hosting everybody. Rest of the family gets in tomorrow. We're recording early. It's Monday night. Rest of the family gets in tomorrow on Christmas Eve, and so we took the brother-in-law out day drinking today. So cheers.
See, I did not do that. I have to console myself with this. This was the 2-year-old Mad Elf.
Oh, nice.
That I pulled from my seltzer. Nice is the right word. Yes, it is. It's
Hmm.
really. I found that Mad Elf at 2 to 3 years old. That's sort of the sweet spot. And I haven't opened. I have a couple bottles of 2016 that I have not opened. I have a 15 and I have a 14. They will all be consumed sometime in the next couple days. But for now, I'm very pleased with this.
Yeah, sounds good. Tis
Um,
the season.
it is. It is the season for many of our like Bowlapalooza-level games that we talked about last week. And I set my iPad up on my desk, and there's a Central Florida and Marshall today, and
Yep. Hmm.
more stuff coming, and I'm digging it as I always do. But it's time we talk about kind of the big ones, right?
Hmm. It is weird that it's like right in the middle of bowl. Like we've only covered one game in Bowlapalooza, and we're already here. Like this
Yes.
whole bowl season this year is just bonkers.
It is very, very weird, and I think it goes on to like mid-February, and I'm okay with that. That's all right. Because this is my sport, and I will watch for as long as they want to keep playing. Today we're going to cover because they're coming up.
Yeah.
We're going to cover the big ones, the New Year's Six games, and the two college football playoff semifinal games, which are coming up on Saturday.
Hmm.
It's just not. I guess I'm ready. I think I'm ready. I might be ready.
Maybe.
We'll find out. And I've got, as I said, we've got time to break in. I'll get used to everything, including on the day of the game. You ready to jump in?
Let's do this.
We can do this. We can do
We
this.
can do this.
December 28th. We're going to go through the New Year's Six games fairly quickly, and just a couple thoughts about each one of those, and then we'll get a little more in depth with the semifinal games. And we start, Carla, with your Nittany Lions in the Cotton Bowl
Hmm.
Classic. This is number 10 Penn State versus number 17 Memphis. Penn State's favored by 7. This game is on at noon on ESPN. Um, what do you see? This was actually, I was really curious about this matchup when it came up on the schedule, because it's not. I mean, Memphis is not an easy team to deal with, right?
No, and this is yeah, I mentioned this at the very end of Bowlapalooza as we were talking about what game we were looking forward to. I am totally sitting on my hands for this game because gosh, this feels an awful lot like the Kentucky team that Penn State faced last
Careful,
year. Um,
careful.
it really does.
Yeah,
You've got a team that relies on its running game pretty heavily, but also has a pretty stellar quarterback under center that can control the game if necessary.
Mhm.
Again, we talked about him. During championship week. Memphis running back Kenneth Gainwell,
Yeah,
he's a stud, and also one of the best names of the running backs of all time.
absolutely.
But the key to this game is whether or not the Penn State defense can stop or at least slow down Kenneth Gainwell. And even though Penn State has the number 5 rush defense in the country, still. We've seen them have some lapses a little bit when they're facing a really, really good running back. That they've been able to slow them down, but they've not been able to completely stop. So that's going to be a real big key to this game, is whether the Penn State defense is really ready to play a Memphis team. Now, I think the Cotton Bowl stage is different for Penn State. I think that's going to be enough to, and Penn State travels well.
Sure.
So, as much as this is close to being a home game for Memphis, that stadium is going to be split 50-50 because Penn State alum travel really, really well. It's really just, both of the big names on offense for Memphis have better numbers than anybody for Penn State. It really just boils down to whether this Penn State defense is ready to stop a Memphis attack. They haven't really seen anything quite like it this year. The closest that probably to what Memphis runs is probably Minnesota, and that didn't go well,
Sure.
especially at the beginning of the game. So this is another one of those games that Penn State really, really has to come out of the gates running and ready to play this game. If they let Memphis take a 2-touchdown lead early in the game, which could happen, I think they might be in trouble in this game. So Penn State better be ready. Comes down to recruiting. We've talked about this a lot. American Conference versus Big Ten, just the talent tends to be better in the Big Ten. I think that's probably going to end up, I hope, being the difference in this game. That I think Penn State will come out with the win, but this is a nail biter for sure. I was not happy when I saw this on the schedule.
I can say I understand why you were not happy, and it's sort of the same reason why I was really intrigued. I mean, Memphis is. I just on paper and I off the top of my head, I don't know how the rankings shook out, but Memphis probably the best Group of 5 team in the country. That they may or may not be how the rankings, what is reflected in the rankings. But here's the thing: you mentioned pass defense, and I as I tend to, I think about what Penn State did against Ohio State. And while Ohio State did get its rushing numbers eventually, Penn State was the first team that really caused turnover problems for Ohio State's rushing game. So that is a defense that I think can stop the rush. I think can give Memphis some difficulties. You mentioned the talent level. That's a hard thing to overcome. I mean, certainly not impossible. It happens, but in this instance, I think the better defense for Penn State. Better overall talent. That may not be something that's reflected early in the game, but when you get down to bigger bodies and physical play in the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, that's where Penn State's going to win this game, and I think that's what's going to happen. Sticking with the other New Year's Six bowl games that were coming up before we get to the semifinals, December 30th, down in the Orange Bowl. Number 9 Florida versus number 24 Virginia. Florida is favored by 15. This game is at 8 p.m. on December 30th. You will find it on ESPN. What do you think for this one, Carla?
Well, Virginia is kind of lucky they backed into this game because if you're going on records alone, you've got an 8-4 Virginia team. Are they worthy of a New Year's Six? I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from Virginia. They played for a conference title. Okay, that's great.
Pitt played for a conference title a couple of years ago.
Right. The ACC was not as good as other than Clemson. The ACC was not very good this year across the board. And so, the Orange Bowl is contractually obligated to take a team from the ACC. So here's Virginia.
And they've got to be like talking to lawyers. Can we get out of this? Can it's not happen?
No, they're taking the paycheck. Are you kidding?
I know. Yes.
I mean, that's the reason why they're, that's the reason why this game's slightly interesting. But Virginia defense is not great against the pass. In my notes here, I wrote C, ACC title game versus Clemson.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and you're facing a Florida team that, we've knocked Florida a lot on this show.
Yes.
And I will say that this has been a surprisingly good year for the Gators behind Kyle Trask. We see. Yeah, it's hard not to root for a team that had to replace its quarterback early in the season. Seems to have found its footing. Had a really good year. They had the loss to Georgia, and then they kind of fell off of everybody's radar after that point because they knew there wasn't a chance for them really to get back into the SEC title game.
Yeah.
But they put together a really great season. This is a Florida win all the way. 15 points. 2 touchdowns, sure. 15, I don't know. Strange things happen in bowl games.
Sure.
So I don't know if I like the line, but Gators win.
Okay. I mean, UVA was our last hope for a Clemsoning this year, and And it didn't actually even come close to happening. So that's why we'll be talking about Ohio State and Clemson here in a little bit. Florida spent the year just kind of teetering on the brink of being a great football team. I mean, they were really, really close, and I think this is a possibility where this is the kind of thing where a bowl game can be a springboard for the following year. I expect we will be talking about Florida a lot in 2020, and that starts with what I think is going to be a pretty healthy win by the Gators in the Orange Bowl. We finally get to January 1st for our New Year's Six bowl games. I guess it's all sort of a new year period, the new year time frame. I
miss all the games on the 31st.
I do.
The 1st and the 2nd.
I do. I mean, I go back and forth on this. I mean, there are still plenty of games on New Year's Day, more than enough to keep my attention. And sometimes I like just having just this big, like 3-week just disgusting orgy of college football that is all the time. I think that's the title. I think that's going to be the title show. But so on January 1st, the Citrus Bowl, number 13 Alabama versus number 14 Michigan. That you would lead one to think that this is an evenly matched game. Alabama's favored only by a touchdown. This is at 1 p.m. on New Year's Day. You will find it on ABC. What do you think, Carla?
Sorry, we have.
Did you like how I set that up? Did you think like, oh, this is going to be an even game?
Yeah, no. We've been talking about the woes of Michigan here for forever. It feels like. And I think we both said it at one point when Auburn beat Alabama and knocked them officially out of the playoff that whoever had to play Alabama in the bowl game were sorry. Yeah. And I actually kind of chuckled a bit when it ended up being Michigan, because there's nothing worse than a Saban coached team that has revenge on its mind. And I know it's not revenge against Michigan, but
the whole thing.
It's revenge against the system, and Michigan's offense has been sporadic at best. The Michigan defense should do a relatively decent job of maybe slowing down Alabama a little bit, but no, this is a tied win all the way. As much as I like to pick with the conference, no.
I would love a Big Ten win. I love Big Ten wins in bowl games. Period. That is what I want to see. And I would be happy. This is Uncle Crappy saying this. I would be happy for Michigan to win this bowl game. What I wrote down is this: Alabama is not Alabama this year, but Michigan hasn't been Michigan for a decade or more, and that does not bode well. This is an easy win by Alabama. We wrap up our New Year's Six bowl games, the unimportant ones. That's not really accurate. With the granddaddy of the Rose Bowl game, number 6 Oregon versus number 8 Wisconsin. Wisconsin is favored by 3. You guys, if you watch college football, you know that this game starts at 5 p.m. It's on ESPN. You know where to find the Rose Bowl. Carla, what do you think?
Yeah, this is still my favorite game. Even with the national championship semifinals, like, I don't know, there's just something special about the Rose Bowl. The atmosphere is there. I'm jealous. My husband, a couple years ago, when he was still working in the media, he got a chance to go out and cover a Rose Bowl. And yeah, I know, right? And I was sitting at home on my couch, and he was out there in Pasadena taking pictures from the press box and on the field before kickoff. And it's just something special. And I can't get past the Rose Bowl without hearing Keith Jackson. Like, that's just kind of like the sentimental thing for me, is that every time I turn on the Rose Bowl, I still wait for Keith Jackson to say something.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. The Fowler and Herb Street, that is still a good group, but to hear Keith Jackson do that game it's just. Yep. I heard it too many times to not think of it still.
Yep, granddaddy of them all. He's the one that coined that. So this is a really interesting game, though. I'm really intrigued by this one. Oregon hasn't seen a defense like Wisconsin's all year,
right?
And Oregon's had a tendency to not play great against any sort of defense that puts up any sort of front against them. So if they get tripped up at all, they tend to kind of self-destruct a little bit. We saw that against Arizona State. The tricky thing here, though, is that yes, the Wisconsin defense is really, really good, but they're not as good against the pass, and that's not necessarily a great combination going up against Oregon. Both these teams, we've been talking, a lot about, these teams look even on paper. Talk about two teams look even on paper. Wisconsin and Oregon remarkably look even on paper. But I'm going to lean again. This is going to be a really, really good game. I think this is going to be one of the better Rose Bowl games that we've had in quite some time. That wasn't a playoff. I like Wisconsin in this game, A, because Big Ten loyalties, and B, because we saw Wisconsin give your Buckeyes a really, really, really good game in the conference title game. And I feel like Wisconsin is the more complete team. Oregon has shown signs of not being as consistent as Wisconsin has looked for most of the season. So I'm going to edge Wisconsin in this one, but this is going to be a heck of a football game.
Okay. Man, as I look at this, I was trying to think of motivation. And Oregon was, if not for that inexplicable loss to Arizona State, Oregon being playoff team right now.
Yeah.
Wisconsin had the mystifying 2 losses to Ohio State. Those are understandable, I guess. The mystifying loss to at Illinois. Which team comes into this with more motivation? Which team comes into this, wanting this game more? I kind of feel like that's going to be Wisconsin. There's disappointment, on both sides of the ball here, but Oregon really could have been a playoff team, and the fact that they're not, you wonder how that's going to go. There are a couple other things that I think about a lot. Although the numbers don't bear this out. The numbers say when we have the traditional Big Ten Pac-12 matchup in this game, the Pac-12 has won 5. There have been 8 of those in the last 10 years. Pac-12 has won 5 of them. Big Ten's only won 3. But what I see, I typically see Big Ten teams out physicaling the Pac-12 teams, and Ohio State's done that with Oregon a couple of times recently in a Rose Bowl and in the 2015 title game. I see the same thing here. And this is close. Oregon is a very, very good team. They may have the best offensive line in the country. They have a quarterback who's going to go in the first round of the NFL draft, top 10. Let's make that clear. But I think again, this is a game that the Big Ten is going to kind of pull away late in the game because they have big bodies. That's just the kind of thing that's what I've seen out of Oregon when they're playing Big Ten competition, and I think that's going to happen this time.
And they haven't faced a running back like Jonathan Taylor either.
They have not.
That's a big difference for Wisconsin. I think if Wisconsin rides a heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor, I think they're going to get the win.
That leaves us 2 more games. Both ostensibly New Year's 6 games, but
we missed the Sugar Bowl.
Did we miss the Sugar Bowl?
We missed the Sugar Bowl.
I didn't even actually include the Sugar Bowl in my notes.
The Sugar Bowl is Georgia versus Baylor.
You were correct about that.
I don't know what day it is, but
I don't. And evidently I don't either. Do you have notes about this game?
I have 2 notes about this game.
Please, go ahead. Go ahead.
So Baylor and Georgia. This is when the Big 12 lack of defense becomes a liability.
Yes.
For Baylor, because Georgia can play defense.
Yes.
Baylor can score, and we know if this gets into a shootout, Baylor can keep up, but can they stop the Georgia offense? And I really, this very similar to what I just said about Wisconsin, about riding the legs of Jonathan Taylor. Yes. Georgia has to rely on the legs of DeAndre Swift here. If Georgia can get DeAndre Swift going, they'll get the win because, quite frankly, Baylor can't really stop anybody.
Anything?
Big 12.
Anybody? Yeah.
So I think Georgia.
We'll talk more about that here in a second.
Yeah. Georgia wins.
Yeah. Okay. Perhaps I have admitted to being a little myopic about college football in the past, and perhaps I was doing this year, but I did completely forget about the Sugar Bowl. This, by way of introduction, the stuff that Carla did not cover. This, of course, is on New Year's Day. It's 8:45 on ESPN. Georgia is favored by 6 points. And as I look at this, I've been you guys know I've been critical of Jake from State Farm and his khakis. I find him to be an underwhelming quarterback. But I think, I mean, he's okay. He's better than game manager. I'm maybe being a little disrespectful. He does handle the ball well. He runs the game well. And if all he does in this game is hands the ball off to DeAndre Swift, I think it's going to be okay. That plus the Georgia's offense, or excuse me, Georgia's defense slowing down, even if it's just a sort of a speed bump to Baylor's offense. I do think this is a fairly easy win for the Bulldogs. Now, can we talk about the semifinals?
Yes,
okay?
now we can talk about
okay.
We're
Thank
good
you.
now. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Now, oh God, I'm a mess. I have to go back to my notes now. Peach Bowl. Number 1 LSU versus number 4 Oklahoma. This is in Atlanta on the at 4 p.m. on December 28th. This is that's this coming Saturday. LSU is favored by 13.5. Good Lord, that's a lot of points. Carla, what do you think?
So my initial reaction to this game is, remember what I just said about Baylor, lather, rinse, repeat for Oklahoma, right? So this is where the lack of defense in the Big 12 is going to be a liability. We've seen this with Oklahoma year in and year out. When they get playoff berths, they just get absolutely dominated because they haven't faced any defenses quite like an SEC defense. But then you go and look at the numbers, and it's deceiving. If you go and look at the numbers between these two teams, they are remarkably similar, including on defense.
Yes.
And so, I read that in my notes here. Nobody is giving Oklahoma a chance in this game. Mm-hmm. They're all saying, the Big 12 defense is soft. LSU's gonna run all over them and slow down Jalen Hurts, and that's the key to this game. That could still happen just because of the quality of competition that LSU has faced all this season, but it's not going to. I don't think this is going to be quite as big of a rout as what we think it's going to be, because I actually think this could end up being more of a shootout than anything else. The LSU defense is actually allowing more yards per game than the Oklahoma defense. Let that sink in, because that doesn't compute. It doesn't compute. Where the difference is here between these two teams is the fact that, and I joked about this at the Big 12 title game, that the Oklahoma defense likes to just take entire halves off.
Yes.
And that's still been a problem for Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. They have not played consistently on defense. We have seen some more consistency in performance from LSU. And to be perfectly honest, LSU has an easier job here on defense because their number one priority is to stop Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. Here's the good news for LSU. You happen to know Jalen Hurts quite well.
Sure.
If anybody is going to be able to slow down Jalen Hurts, it's a fellow foe in the same division of the SEC. And so I still see LSU winning this game. I think the line is absurd. I think this game is going to be much more close than people are really giving them credit for, because of the fact that LSU's defense might not be quite as good as we're giving them credit for. I mean, their front line is incredible, and so as long as they can contain Jalen Hurts, they're gonna get the win here. But this game could be closer than everybody's expecting, especially early on.
Okay. The thing I did not look up, and I'm checking on now, is the over/under, which is 76, which seems to indicate
they're thinking shootout.
Yeah, and Carla, I had a similar experience when I was putting together notes for this, and I'll get to that in a second. Just an anecdotal thing: Heisman Trophy winners often seem to struggle in their bowl games.
That's a good point. Yep.
I don't know if I see that. If I'm ready to predict that noted Ohioan and Heisman Trophy winner Joe Burrow is going to have any particular difficulties in this game, especially not against Oklahoma's defense. The thing that I do see here is that Oklahoma is going to score. That is what they do. LSU is going to score, excuse me, because that's what they do.
Right.
And then you address this this interesting tidbit. Here are the actual numbers. Oklahoma is giving up 330 yards and 24.5 points per game. LSU is giving up 340 yards per game and nearly as many points, 21 per game, as the Sooners.
Mm-hmm.
So for the discerning college football consumer, this should mean this is a game that you should not miss, because it's going to be entertaining.
Yeah.
And not going to be a whole lot of defense. There's going to be a lot of scoring. That does make this line seem a little silly. But I do think, I mean, you mentioned, the LSU coaching staff, players, they're going to know Jalen Hurts. They have seen Jalen Hurts before. So that's I think that's a difference. And I do think just a more versatile offense on the part of LSU presents a bigger problem for the Sooners defense than basically the one-man show in Oklahoma's offense presents to LSU. So this is going to be fun, guys. Do not miss this game.
Yeah.
But there should be a win for LSU. And they will move on to the title game in, whatever it is, March 1st. I don't know when that's coming up.
That's what March Madness is, right?
Yes.
The title game? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
That's. I don't think I'm missing it. I think we're down to the last game, and I'm not missing any others.
I think you're good.
Okay, good. Fiesta Bowl. And this is the other semifinal game. Number 2 Ohio State versus number 3 Clemson. Clemson is favored by 2.5 points. This is in, I think it's called State Farm Stadium in Glendale now. It is at 8 p.m. on the 28th. You will also find this on ESPN. What do you think?
You have a lot more thoughts on this game probably than I do, so I'm going to get through this as quickly as possible. So just as we were talking about how Oklahoma and LSU are surprisingly evenly matched,
yes.
You got the same thing happening here. Statistically, you've got two teams that are surprisingly evenly matched. And immediately you think, Ohio State has obviously run a tougher schedule than Clemson has. They are battle tested. They had to come back in the second half against Wisconsin in the title game. You feel like Ohio State overall is the more confident team. You say that, and then you just rewind the tapes from last year and realize that you had a Clemson team that was in basically the same spot that they're in right now. Nobody really giving them a chance because they haven't played anybody. I'm using air quotes. And they went out and won a national championship, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of unknowns here about Clemson. We've talked about this time and time again, that Clemson is sitting right exactly where Dabo wants them. They're the underdog. Nobody's giving them a chance.
They're not the underdog.
In public
I know exactly. Yes, and I know exactly what you're saying, and that is definitely the card that Dabo is playing.
Absolutely, and that's the card he has to play in this to get his team motivated. The caveat that I put here, though, is the fact that Clemson has not faced a defense like Ohio State all season. So even though these two teams are statistically even, Clemson has not faced a defense like this before. There's nobody in the ACC that can play defense like Ohio State can. And I think that is the difference in this game, is the Ohio State defensive front being able to get some pressure on Trevor Lawrence and being able to slow down that passing attack just a bit to be able to give them a bit of a speed bump. The other key here for Ohio State is to get J.K. Dobbins going early. Clemson is good against the run, but if they can make some inroads with Dobbins early, I think that's going to deflate the Clemson defense a little bit. I think it's going to be real easy if Dobbins breaks a couple. To be able for Clemson to go and I think that could really be a game changer for Ohio State. So I'm going to stay in conference. I think Ohio State wins this game. I think this game is going to be very interesting in the first half. But I think the Ohio State defense is just too good, and we don't know how good really the Clemson defense is because they haven't had to stop anybody all season. So we'll find out pretty quickly whether or not they're up to the task of stopping this Ohio State offense. But I like the battle-tested game managers on the Ohio State sideline to be able to pull out this win.
Okay. I have lots of old reasons to when I hear Clemson come up to sort of to pucker,
Yeah.
because Ohio State is 0-3 against Clemson. You guys will all remember the 31-0 beatdown in a national semifinal game a couple years ago. You may recall Ohio State losing a shootout in the Orange Bowl in 2014. That was when Braxton Miller initially injured his shoulder and played with that through that whole game. That was the same shoulder injury that kept him out of football that fall. And if you're as old as I am, you might even remember the 1978 Gator Bowl when Woody Hayes hauled off and punched Clemson linebacker Charlie Bauman after Bauman intercepted an Art Schleister pass that won that bowl game for the Tigers. So the history is uncomfortable. But this is not. I can understand Ohio State fans who are look at that stuff and go, but this isn't Woody. It's not Braxton Miller playing with one arm. And as I started thinking about this a few days ago, hearing over and over as we went through the end of the regular season and the conference title games, like Clemson is the team that no one wants to face. Like, well, why wouldn't that be Ohio State? Why wouldn't the Buckeyes be the one team that nobody wants to face? And then it's like, okay, Trevor Lawrence, Clemson's quarterback, he's a freak of nature. He can make throws that I'm not sure any other quarterback in college football can make right now. But he had to do that against DBs as good as Damon Arnett and Jeffrey Okudah and Jordan Fuller. Not this season, no. Can Travis Etienne get anything going against a run defense that gives up under 100 yards rushing a game? Don't know. And then, as you said, Carla, can a Clemson defense that is largely coasted through a pillowy soft conference schedule, can they be counted to stop J.K. Dobbins and Justin Fields and literally waves of stupid good wide receivers?
Right.
I know better than to be overconfident, and I'm sure I sound that way. This is a tight game through most of it, but I think what happens, especially with Ohio State's defense, and a solid running game in the fourth quarter, Ohio State is going to win this by a touchdown, by 10 points. It's somewhere in there, and we'll advance and deal with LSU in another 2 or 3 months. Guys, you can find the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, as well as on a variety of other podcasting services. You can also watch us, and I would urge you to do that because I am super proud of my ugly Christmas sweater. You can also watch us babble on YouTube and on our Facebook page. If you dig the show, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, you're probably an LSU fan. And as always, come back next week to find out exactly how right we were. And actually, we could do this next week because the actual title game, I think, is on the 13th. I don't know. Well, at some point between now and then, we'll have one more show, right?
We will have one more show. Yes.
Okay.
It's crazy. We only have one more show.
I know we've been doing this for a long time, and so you get down to the end of the season, it's like, wow, that went very, very quickly.
It did,
and it's because there are a few things that are more fun with this than this, and hopefully we'll be talking about an Ohio State and LSU title game.
Since that's what we both picked.
yeah. Hopefully we're going to be both be right about that. Carla, I hope you have an excellent Christmas, an excellent time with your family down in Nashville.
Yes, you too. It should be lovely here. We're gonna have abnormally warm weather, so we're gonna soak that in.
We're having abnormally weather in Pittsburgh as well. So I'm gonna wear a Hawaiian shirt and shorts to Christmas, and
because why not?
And then watch football, and because that's what I'm mostly looking forward to. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have an excellent holiday as well, whatever you guys celebrate. And we will be sure to ping you guys when we come back here one more time to talk about the national title game. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
We'll talk to you again soon.